it's Brittany, and I'm here with Trish Hoffman, and she is the owner of Women Against Crime, and she's also a former APD police officer.
I am.
And so we're here today to talk about personal safety and how to keep you and your kids safe when you're out and about town.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Look forward to talking about some tips, hopefully that will help you in your everyday life.
Great, wonderful. So Trish, why don't you start with just some general things that we should all be aware of when we're out, running errands, going to the grocery store, the bank, Target.
So a couple things to remember is that when we're talking about personal safety, self-defense goes right along with that. So self-defense is not a martial art. It is not a style of protection. It truly is that. If you're in a situation and you have to defend yourself, you have the right to do that. We need to probably cover being aware of your surroundings and what those are. You know, if you're in a parking lot, you come across vehicles and people and the building and dumpsters and anything or anyone, animals that you could come in contact with. So that is your surroundings, and then how you really be observant to that. And one is don't have distractions, meaning a phone in your hand.
Okay.
Specifically, that's really the big one. And really having a mindset for survival, that no matter what happens if there's a possible encounter, which we hope there never is, or an altercation, that you can talk your way out of it. That's a good option. Running your way out of it is a good option.
Okay.
But if you can't, and we're going to get into this in a few minutes, about actually, if you can't defend yourself with your hands and your feet alone, having something for protection, maybe a self-defense tool, might be a great option for you.
Okay, that sounds great. One of the things you mentioned was limiting distractions, and if you have kids, they're huge distractions. So what do you recommend, if you're bringing your brood into the grocery store, how can you kind of minimize those distractions going in?
So one of the things that is really helpful, I think, kids or no kids, is that if you can keep your hands free most of the time, meaning if you can use a backpack type situation, backpack purse, backpack diaper bag, backpack kid thing, whatever you want to call it, use that, and that will most likely keep most of the time your hands free. Now, as a mom, you're going to have possibly a kid in a car seat, maybe a toddler. So again, you're multitasking already, but to lessen the chance of distraction even more with don't have your phone in your hand and really have your head on a swivel. That's the key. We set the stage by the way we walk. So if you get out of your vehicle and you're constantly distracted and yelling and doing whatever, or on the phone or talking to your kids, and you never see what's happening around you, you're going to be caught off guard. So set the stage with having a confident walk, shoulders back, and head on a swivel.
Okay.
So
could you demonstrate that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
so
awesome.
This looks very different. Having your hands in your pocket, head down, versus walking, have your head on a swivel when you get out of the vehicle, shoulders back, and every once in a while glance behind you. That looks very different. And it's almost like, we don't want to give people the impression we're going to be such an easy target. We don't want to be the path of least resistance. And so, believe it or not, people will size you up. Is that going to be easy target, or is that going to be a hard target? And so we want to really be confident in from the time we get out of our vehicle and wherever that leads us to. Women in general, we're kind of a target for several reasons. One, we're not as strong, we're not as fast, and then we typically carry something like a purse, something that people want. A lot of times we give people an opportunity to take stuff from us, whether it's our vehicle, our personal belongings. So we want to limit that if we can. We're talking about possibly having a backpack, purse, and or like your diaper bag. And so one of the things that's great about this is that your hands are free. So one of the things I always recommend is carry something versus nothing, right? Your personal space is the front and the side and the rear of you. And so it's kind of imperative to not let someone in there that you don't want in there. And that means actually making eye contact with someone and actually putting your hand up to say stop. Now this tool right here is called an equalizer, and I would say at minimum carry something like this. There's a lot of things out on the market, but again, what we're trying to do is distract someone, get to a safe place, do what we have to do, and get away. Ideally, it would be great if someone came up to us and we said, stop, not interested, and you just go about your business and you never have any actual physical confrontation. And so I think it's imperative to, one, if you have to put your hand up and say stop, don't come any closer, actually put your hand up and say stop. And knowing that your comfort level, where that is. So this already is too close for me. Right? So that's a little bit better, because remember, anytime you're an arm's length away, someone can grab you. So I think it's, those are some options. The equalizer is an option. Pepper spray, I know some people have questions about that. Is that a great option? So again, depending on your circumstances, if a 3-year-old gets a hold of the pepper spray and pushes the button, that's not going to be good for anyone in the vehicle. But maybe to talk about that and have that conversation and say, they never touch it, that's mommy's, and that's very clear, and that's the end of it. So if you tell a kid that, they're probably gonna be like, well, what is that? Why can't I have it? And pepper spray works on most of the population. So you're gonna bring someone snots, redness, rescue breathing, where they're, having a difficult time. The idea is, if you use that on someone, you do it, you got probably about a 10 to 25 minute getaway.
Okay.
So personal safety and self-defense is not about going 10 rounds with someone. It literally is do what you have to do and get away. And if you're a runner and you're in great shape, then exit if you can, quickly and as safely as possible. But I think, years ago, everyone was like, well, don't make eye contact with anybody. And so, we would walk around kind of like this. And although we want to have that confident walk, well, you can't do that when you're looking down. You certainly can't see what's happening around you, behind you. And, a lot of times we kind of get those clues. Like, we'll be walking to our vehicle and we'll think, I think I noticed something, and it kind of made the hairs on my neck stand up.
Yeah,
but
we intuition.
We discount that, and women have that going on. So we need to listen to that. It's almost like seeing it, sensing it, and then what are you going to do about it? Do you need to make a phone call? Do you need to go inside a store and say someone's bothering people in the parking lot? Do you need to tell a loss prevention person, hey there, and give a description? Or is it someone comes up to you and you need to address that situation, say stop, and actually put your hands up and say stop and get back.
Okay.
So when we do the physical training, always train by using your voice. So not just excuse me, can you get back, versus get back. It's very different. You're serious. They know by the tone of your voice that you're not messing around. And so when you talk to someone that way, you want to do it with some conviction, and it has to come from within. Use your voice.
With some force. Okay, that's awesome. And can you just show how this is attached to your keys?
Yes, so if for some reason you don't have keys, I was dealing with this last night. Sorry, 1 second. And some of the ladies, sorry, thank you. Some of the ladies I was teaching yesterday, they don't have keys. And so I said, well then, you need to start carrying this in your pocket every time you get out of your vehicle. So remember those vulnerable times, right? So how this looks, either on your keys or not, is that you're weak-handed, right? So that way your strong hand is free. So you can do that with your backpack on. There's a variety of purses out there, whether it's a crossbody bag or one on your shoulder, but I would think for moms, you already got a lot going on. So try to minimize things that are in your hands that often. So the way this works is you put it in your weak side, and ideally the target area on someone is the face area. You're either gonna stab or slash, strike.
Okay.
So that's the idea. Okay. So get it in this part of their face. If you get it here versus get it just in the area is smart. And the idea is you strike, and then you have to follow it up with some other kind of strike, whether it's a palm heel strike or an elbow.
Okay.
And this is why it's so important to have something in your mind already. You're gonna survive no matter what. But when and if something happens, are you going to be ready? Not that it's never going to happen. When and if you'll be ready. So having a go-to position, right?
That makes sense. Like pre-planning rather than trying to figure it out in the moment.
Right, because you're going to be scared, caught off guard. Your breathing's going to change. You go into kind of stress, right? adrenaline hopefully kicks in and does make you a little bit stronger. But then what if you have a child with you? So now you've got your situation and you've got that person to also deal with. So again, that's why it's so important to have something kind of in the back of your head of what you would do.
Okay.
For example, if you're in your vehicle and you're leaving the bank or wherever it is you're going, and you've got a kid in a car seat and another child in the front seat, and someone comes up to your vehicle and they have a gun at the window, what are you going to do?
I do not know.
And so
I shouldn't laugh. That's really scary. Yeah.
So this is a situation that is depending on what your skill level is and what your experiences have been. But if you never think about it, you're going to go into panic mode. So self-defense and personal safety, this isn't going to save your life. Don't hurt me, right? Rather than realizing you're confident, you're capable of protecting yourself. Now, you and I are a little different in our height, right?
Yes.
So I always say someone like your size is probably a little height challenged, right?
5'2".
Right? So, but what's interesting about that is it doesn't matter your size. If you know some key techniques and some target areas on a bad person is here. If you distract someone here and they go like this and they're now off of you, running away if you can at all possible. Get to a safe place, get in your vehicle, something like that.
So you mentioned keeping your hands free, and so I brought my baby carrier today. I'm expecting my third baby in November, and I think that's a great way to keep your hands free. But I was thinking, I have a 5-year-old and I have a 3-year-old, and usually I'm holding their hands. So what do you recommend, for baby wearing to keep safe when you're going in and out of stores, those vulnerable times you mentioned?
So I think that this is kind of really have to think about this and kind of pre-plan where you're going, how it's going to go down, right? So you say you have a baby in here, right? So how are you doing that? Like, do you have that on already? Do you get out of the vehicle and then you put it on? Because ideally you have a baby in there and now you've got a baby here, and now you've got to either walk around and you got to get into the back seat, and you got to get a child out this way, right?
Yeah.
And now they're holding your hand, and then do you walk to the other side and get the other child out?
Yes.
So now you are completely, you can't even help yourself unless, right? You're not going to use your kid as a deterrent.
Yes.
So ideally, maybe the option is, and I kind of think like when you're going with them, if you're taking all 3 of them like to a store where you are solo, so maybe getting a cart, right? And putting both of them in there at once. And again, you're still going to have to look around. But rather than having your hands fully, you're already going to be distracted by this, and then you've got the 2 kids. Maybe a good option would be get a cart if you can. Bring the cart back to the vehicle, and a grocery cart is a great barrier. No matter Walmart, Target, wherever it is you go, grocery store, there are certain times you can't do this, but a cart could be a great barrier between you and someone else is the cart. And so
just to kind of keep a little bit more space.
Just to kind of keep if you have distance, you have time, and you can make better decisions. So, or hopefully we can make better decisions. So ideally what we want to do is, grab child A if you can, put them in the cart, right? And then get the other child and put them in the cart. And now you at least have the barrier when you're walking, and now you have a baby here and 2 kids that you're not holding on to.
So in theory, my hands are still free. I have a barrier to kind of keep between bad person, me and baby.
Right.
Okay.
And sometimes we think, oh my gosh, that's so much work, but it's going to be even more work if you're confronted by someone and now you are struggling to figure out, okay, where do you go? What do you do? What if someone is potentially looking not only to grab a child, but now you're in a situation where you don't have anything with you for protection.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's an option. One of the things I want just to clarify is, if someone has a firearm or a knife and they want your purse or your car, give it up.
Yeah. Please
So
do.
that's not worth your life. That's
Absolutely.
not worth that's stuff, that's property that can be replaced. The difference obviously comes if they now want you, or even in a case of all your audience, your moms, if they want a child, you fight to the death right then and there, because hopefully someone will find you.
Yeah.
And statistics shows the chance of women and children surviving an encounter like that, if they're taken to a secondary location, is very, very slim. So I know those are hard topics to talk about, but we have to talk about it in order to be prepped mentally and physically for situations like that.
So you recommend if somebody comes and they're trying to hurt you or your child, like you said, fight, make a lot of noise, try to get other people's attention.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to, when we do physical training, is we yell, get back, get back. And so that, because when you're yelling at someone, one, you're possibly getting other attention, right? Like if you and I were training and I was showing you how to do a kick to someone, and I just stood there and kicked, and I never said anything, and I just kicked over and over, and I'm using all this exertion and my energy, but I never said anything. Someone outside of wherever is going to be like, well, that's weird. Oh, she must be doing some training. Versus, get back, get back, get back. Right? Or striking and yelling at the person, that brings much more attention and the obvious signs of, okay, why is that person yelling at this other person? There's obviously something
going on.
That's awesome.
And so then another question we had, besides running errands and going out in public, sometimes, we're stay-at-home moms. Well, not all of us, but some of us are stay-at-home moms, and we're having contractors come in to fix the sink, spray for bugs, all those things. How can you keep yourself and your family safe when you're having pretty much strangers come into your house? Yeah.
So a couple thoughts are, one is, if you don't have an appointment with someone, they shouldn't just be showing up to your door, and you certainly don't let them in your house unless you know, okay, that Wednesday the bug guy's coming. You know who the company is, you know that they're supposed to be there on that date and time. Most contractors have some sort of identification. They usually have a work ID and probably some sort of uniform, and you should ask for it. If you don't have an appointment and someone is out in the area selling alarm systems, do not let that person in your house, especially being alone or even with children. There's some great options out there on the market. I'm a firm believer in having a security system, whatever kind you choose, but having the advantage of either seeing someone when they walk up to your property. There's several different doorbell,
video doorbell
tools, or whatever you want to call them, that you can now address someone and from inside your house, or even if you're not home. So I think if that's something you can afford, I think that's a really good option, having a security door on your residence so that you don't have to have that face-to-face confrontation, where meaning you just don't open the door and they're standing right there. You can have a storm door or security door, and then addressing someone if they do come to your house and you say you're not available right now, you have to come back, and not addressing it. And that way, in case someone is casing the area, and you want to make sure.
I've always wondered that too. It's like I don't want to answer the door because they're trying to sell me something or whatever, but I also don't want them to think I'm not home, and then it's a robber and they're gonna try to break in. Yeah.
And legitimately, there are no door-to-door salespeople any longer. There's really not. Sometimes you'll see the cable guy out there, but hardly ever. And again, if you already have cable or whatever you have, you don't need to address the door. I would say if you don't have an appointment with PNM or one of these type companies or someone that's going to clean your carpet, you don't address someone, and you certainly don't let them in your house. Now, let's just say accidentally we thought, okay, yep, we have something going on with our house, someone's here to fix something in the back of the residence, and you are going to let them in your house. There's actually a way to do this safest. So if you do allow someone in your residence, is that you want them to go in before you, so that you have an exit if need to be.
Yeah.
So now again, they're not going to know how your house is laid out, but you can say to them, go ahead and keep walking straight and go to the backyard.
And that way your back's kind of not to them.
Right. And so that way, and again, we probably don't want to take them, if at all possible, through a kitchen. There's weapons in a kitchen. And if we're going to a new residence, we want to make sure we always have an exit strategy. And these kind of things seem like these are a lot, but this is something you deal with every single day. And as moms, you're a multitasker already, whether you know it or not.
Yes.
So one more added little kind of safety tip isn't gonna ruin your day. It's again, those vulnerable times. And when we allow people in our house that we don't know personally, it could, unfortunately go south. We would hope not. And I think really use your voice, being firm, and I say address someone at the door if you have to, and say, now's not a good time, go away and come, you know, whatever, make an appointment, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
I think those are good
great tips. So now we're out at my vehicle. We wanted to talk a little bit about how to be aware of your surroundings when putting kids in and taking them out of car seats. So do you have any recommendations for that?
So, you know, this is a tricky situation, right? Because you have to get in where your vehicle is. You're going to have to bend over. And one of the thought processes, how can we make this as easy as possible, right? You know, whether it's strapping one or two and you've got to maneuver your body and you're really not able to look around you. But what if you had those tiny little mirrors, you Velcroed one here, you Velcroed one here, and now you can see anyone that's coming behind you. This is a great idea even in your trunk. If you put groceries in your trunk, when you open the trunk, and you can see what's happening behind you. It doesn't discount the fact, you know, use your vehicle as
a reflective surface.
But maybe, I mean, these are something that's really inexpensive, under $2, that you can buy those little tiny mirrors at Pep Boys, any auto parts stores.
Mirrors.
And that might be a great option. And now
on the back of the headrest, and then right here on the door.
So now you've got this location and this.
Okay.
And again, you're still going to have to be responsible and look around, but you're already going to be distracted. Let's try to lessen our worries if we can see what's happening around us.
And I noticed when you were standing, you kind of had your feet split, and it looked like you were kind of in like I'm going to call it a power stance.
Yeah, so I would just say can't-your stance. Now that's a little uncomfortable because my weak side is exposed versus this way.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you have the ability to have something in your hand still while you're doing that, that's going to give you a little bit extra advantage. But rather than being so focused here, you know, you kind of are in almost like a ready stance. I feel like I'm kind of always in that stance for years and years of training. But this is better than this. You're kind of you're not really in a ready position if need be. So I would say can't-your stance in any situation if you can, and still glancing around you, head on a swivel if at all possible. But I think that's a great idea to use those small mirrors and see if that would.
So thank you so much for giving us all these awesome tips.
Having me.
If other moms are interested in learning more or getting some more training in self-defense, how can they get in touch with you? What are the next steps?
So the next steps are you can contact me on my website, you can send me an email. Everyone gets a free self-defense tool if they sign up for a class. Minimum of 10 people.
Okay.
And it's a 2-hour session. I work at night, I work on the weekends, depending on, and I'll come to you. I'm mobile, so I bring all my kick bags, I bring all my equipment, and I'll come to you. So price depending on how many people there are, what size group, where it's going to be, but they have to have the space, and it can be as small as this. I mean, we really only need an arm's length distance away to really train, because you and another one of your friends is who I'm going to have you practice with. Doesn't make sense to practice with me. I already know how to do it. So it's more of me showing you, and we're going to drill different types of moves, and we're going to use the equalizer keychain. We're going to talk about pepper spray and what would be a good option. We're going to talk about, are you a mom that exercises, and are you pushing a stroller, and hopefully you're not wearing headphones.
Yes.
And all of these kind of tips, and as you can imagine, there's a plethora of things to talk about. We could talk for hours and hours. What if you get taken to the ground? What if you get grabbed from behind? I mean, these are all things we just don't have the time to cover, but certainly cover that in the class. And they'll just have to reach out. I can give them pricing when they reach out, pick a date, and we'll get it on the books, and we'll go from there.
That's wonderful. So yeah, so if you have a mom group, like you said earlier, a Bible study, a church group,
if
people in your office.
Yeah, if you work in an office and there's a bunch of female employees, obviously I'm a woman, that's my specialty. I love to train other women. You know, if you're a mom and you have teenage daughters, that's a really good idea. About 11 is probably the minimum age. So 11 and up. So do a mom-daughter kind of training night. So 6 months ago, I did a girl's birthday. She was turning 15. And her mom gave her the gift of self-defense. And I went to their house, we trained. She had a bunch of her friends over, and we did a 15th birthday self-defense class. So really a good option.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, really
Wonderful.
just, they have to reach out to me. My phone number, my email, and all my contact information is on there as well.
Great, and we'll link the website.
Thank you.
Guys.